Good evening and welcome to the City of Helena City Commission meeting, August 26, 2024. The time is 6 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk.
City Attorney Doctor,
Here.
City Manager Burton,
Here.
Commissioner Dean,
Here.
Commissioner Logan,
Here.
Commissioner Reed,
Here.
Commissioner Shirtliff.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here. Welcome and thank you for participating in the City of Helena City Commission meeting. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's effort to broaden public participation. Please be patient as we may experience technical difficulty during the meeting. We welcome your public commentary. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the app usage and your participation. Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge. City Commission minutes, admin meeting 8/7/24 and commission meeting 8/12/24 were received. Commissioner, other comments, questions, addition? Minutes will stand as submitted. Presentation, tax year 2024 property tax overview. Director Danielson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. I think I'm going to sit down here and can you help me get this set up? Great. So before we bring the actual tax levy resolution before the commission, I'd like to present how we've calculated the mill levies for the year and provide a little bit of information on those calculations for the public. The state statute indicates that we must levy our taxes the latter of the first Thursday after the first Tuesday in September, which this year that would be September 12th, or 30 days after receiving taxable values. The city received the taxable values on August 5th, making September 4th or the 30 calendar day mark. The latter of these two dates is September 12th, which is our official deadline to approve the tax levy for tax year 2024 or fiscal year 2025. Tonight is our public hearing, so we will meet the deadline to present the tax levy to the commission for approval. The mill levy is dependent on relatively two factors. One is the taxable value in the levying district, and the other is the maximum amount that we're able to levy. And that's determined by the maximum amount that we levied in the prior year and adjusting it by the inflation factor that the Department of Revenue provides to us every year. Just as a note, the increase in adjusted taxable value, and I have an asterisk down below that the adjusted taxable value is our taxable value less any new taxable value, less the incremental value of our tax increment financing districts. If that increases from one year to the next, or from one year to the next grows faster than the inflation rate that's provided to us by the Department of Revenue, then the number of mills necessary to generate the total taxable revenue plus the inflation actually decreases. The inverse is just actually that case this year, where our adjusted taxable value decreased by 0.02%, and we had an inflation factor of 2.8%. My suspicion as to why the taxable value decreased, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to do the calculations, but it's the incremental value in the tax increment financing districts. And because that's put into the formula to give us our adjusted taxable value, I believe that that's why our total taxable value decreased by 0.02%. And since the inflation factor was higher than that net change in taxable value, the number of mills that we need to generate to our allowable revenue is going to increase, proposing it for the general levy 110.43 mills versus 105.7 million mills from the prior year. Last year, as you know, we went through an assessment year, and taxable values and corresponded with market values and increased significantly by 29.22% from the prior year. Just to show you some of our trends in our citywide taxable and market and adjusted taxable values. As you can see on the bottom line there, adjusted taxable values, it actually decreased from 24 to 23 by 0.02%. But if you look down at the tax increment financing districts, most of those had a pretty significant change, with the exception of the Capitol Hill TIF district that actually was adjusted down. And at this time, I'm not certain why, but it could be just, I know that there was a building there that was tore down. I don't think it had much of a taxable value while it was up, but it was tore down and they could have adjusted the taxable value for that. So I'm not quite certain why the taxable value went down for that district, but the others saw a pretty significant increase. Overall, the percentage of taxable value to market value has averaged about 1.7% over the last few years. Just to remind you that a mill is actually 0.1%, or 1/1000th of a dollar, and that's what we consider the definition of a mill. Proposing the general levy this year to be 110.43 mills. Last year, that number was 105.7 mills. This actually includes the TIF district mills, the railroad TIF district of 1.29 mills, downtown TIF district of 2.19 mills, and the Capitol Hill TIF district of 0.81 mills. I often get questions from the public why these TIF districts are separated out on their tax bill, and they believe that those are additional mills, but they're actually subtracted out of the total general levy mill, and they're carved out of that, and then they're set aside in their respective funds to be spent on capital improvements in those districts. So they're not additional mills, they're just separated out. But I do get that question from time to time because they are called out separately on someone's tax bill. The permissive health levy that we're calculating and proposing this year is 25.99 mills. That's actually down by 27 from 27.51 from the prior year. It all depends on our what we're budgeting for our health insurance levy. And this year, the actual amount for our total premiums was adjusted down, although we did maintain the around the same level of employees. And this is just for general government employees. So that was good news that that health insurance premium was adjusted down slightly so that we didn't have to budget as much as we did in the prior year. The GO debt levy is actually going down in mills, 5.52 mills from 5.58 from the prior year. That we technically only levy the amount to pay for the debt service and the fund. And we had some significant investment income from the prior year. So that investment income can go toward paying for the debt service payment. And so we're only levying amount to cover the debt service. And I have some additional cash balance in that fund from investment earnings. And so that's why the mills are coming down for that. And then the fire supplemental levy is a voted levy, posing 10.43 mills, 10.43 mills, and last year it was 9.98 mills. So the net increase from last year to this new fiscal year is 3.6 mills for total proposed mills of 152.37 mills. Following slides, I go through just how those mills are calculated. It's taking the adjusted tax value and dividing it into the number of. Sorry, I have a cold tonight. My head's not clear, so we just take the assessed the ad valorem tax revenue and divide it into the taxable revenue. And then that's how we calculate the 110.43 mills. I brought this up as a history of looking at what our mills have been. And you can see that last year, you can recall that was a significant change from many of the prior years from those assessed values going up significantly last year and then adjusting down this year by 0.67, which is, I think, a pretty big adjustment from that huge increase from the prior year. So I just called that out, that was really an anomaly last year of those assessed values going up as much as they did. And the permissive health levy, this is the levy that is used to cover general government employee benefits. Those are employees that are not covered by fees for services such as the Public Works Fund, the Solid Waste Fund, water, wastewater, golf course. Those are all funds that generate enough fees to support the costs of their respective business funds. This is just the calculation provided for the permissive health levy. It's based on the incremental value of what we budgeted for health insurance, and the base year was 2001 at $198,000. The budget for this year is 2.7 million. That incremental value is 2.5 million. Divided into the taxable value, it comes out to 25.99 mils. Again, the GO bond levy is just a voted levy just to cover the amount of the debt service. The debt service that's needed to cover our actual payment is higher than that, but that's all I need as far as the cash value to levy is 5.52 mils. And then the fire levy, which is a voted levy that has no expiration. We began collecting that in 2019, and its use is to support 6 firefighters and capital equipment for the fire department. And that's calculated at 10.43 mils. Here's the calculation. It was the prior year, we levied 984,000. The inflation factor gives us $27,500. And then divided into the taxable values comes out to 10.43 mils. This schedule here was a new schedule that was implemented last year by SB 332 that shows the difference in what a homeowner would pay for their property taxes. And it's divided into 2 sections. In the top section, it's the fiscal year 2025 calculation based on the house value of $100,000, $300,000, or $600,000, and then comparing it to the prior year, which was fiscal year 2024. For a $100,000 home, the tax increase would be $4.86. For a $300,000 home value, they would pay a $14.58 more than the prior year, and for a home valued at $600,000, they would pay $28.80 more in taxes than they did in the prior year. So at this time, I'm open to questions, but we're proposing to the commission that when we bring the resolution later on in the commission agenda today, that you adopt 152.37 mils for the tax year 2024 levy. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Director Danielson. Commissioners. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to bring this up a little bit later, but I think right now, since we just went over some of this, it might be maybe a better time to introduce it. There was in the news about a week ago, there was some concern about in Gallatin County about newly taxable values coming in lower than what municipalities in Gallatin County had expected. And it was interesting when I read that article because we had a conversation a few weeks ago about how we always budget very conservatively in our preliminary budget, and we normally experience higher values that come in when we get the actuals because we do budget so conservatively. We did not necessarily experience that same type of increase that we do in previous years. And I wonder, I mean, can you maybe briefly describe what we might be looking at? We're at the very beginning, I think, of researching what this impact could be. And I know the League of Cities and Towns is also starting to look into what this impact could be. But the fact that we have our newly taxable value this year was 1.9 million. the same as it was in 2019. And I think we all know that development and building in Helena is far surpassed in 2024 than in 2019. We've also gone through COVID, which means all of our property values have doubled and for a lot of people. And so can you maybe paint a picture of what the issue might be and what we'll do as a municipality moving forward to try to get to the bottom of this with the Department of Revenue?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner Dean. Yes, I was a bit surprised that our market and taxable values came in where they did, because I do budget very conservatively for the preliminary budget. And then if we once we get our values from the state, we can adjust if they come in higher. They came in right around where I had originally projected, which was very conservatively. So that was a surprise to me. I did get a call from one of the finance directors from down in the Bozeman area, and asked, for our information, because they were very concerned that their values weren't as high as what they were expecting. I have not had an opportunity to do any research on this at this point, but I do plan on communicating with the other finance directors across the state to try to understand what's going on and do some investigation on how those calculations came about and why they weren't what we were expecting. Because as you noted, I can drive around town and see development all over the city, and it just seems to me that it's from a layperson's view that our values would have been higher than they came in at.
Thanks.
So a couple of questions. This is one more for trivia. See if I can find it here. In your slideshow, you talk about the inflation factor that the state gives, the DOR gives to you to work with, that 2.8. Is that the famous half the rate of inflation averaged over 3 years?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioner Logan, that is their calculation, and it's based on the CPI over the prior 3 years, and it's cut in half by the what we're allowed to raise our prior year property taxes by.
Okay, thank you. And the second question I have, so in the preliminary budget, relative to taxes, and we're levying taxes here tonight, you had one of my favorite pages of the budget book is the budget at a glance.
Budget at
Budget
glance,
at a
yeah.
glance, the one with the big pie chart. And in that, on that page, it talks about taxes or revenues from the taxes that we levy. And there was a figure given for the FY 25 preliminary budget relative to the revenue you needed. Has that changed any?
I did actually, not in total, but I changed it between regular property and personal property, just based on what our personal property came in, but the grand total, I kept relatively the same. Yeah.
So the revenue that we need to create or to fund the budgets that we have should be sufficient relative to this 152.37.
Yes, and when they give us our, it's difficult for me to determine what our personal property taxes are gonna be when I forecast it, because they lump them together in the calculation of our mills, and then I don't know until I actually get the property tax revenue from the county once they collect that. So there was a pretty significant increase in personal property taxes from the prior year, but the grand total of the revenue was about the same. It's just how they distributed it amongst the two different categories.
Do you have any other comments from the? Sure. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Board appointments. I'm recommending. Oh, thank you. Well, at this time, for those of us who are here for the capital traffic plan proposal, we are going to be tabling that item because the state and GSA are looking for more time to be able to explain this situation to you. So if you're here for that item, I'm just letting you know that it's being tabled. And not by the city. Let me make it clear, not by the city, it's the state. So, okay. So, board appointments. I'm recommending the following board appointments: Lewis and Clark County Heritage Tourism Council. Appointment of William Russ to the Lewis and Clark County Tourism Council as a joint city and county representative. First term expires June 30th, 2027. Commissioners? Okay, do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment on mine.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I would move to appoint William Rust to the Lewis and Clark County Heritage Tourism Council as a joint city-county representative at first term expiring June 30th, 2027.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consent agenda, one motion, no presentation required. Claims. We have the claims on in our packet here. Claims paid on 7/3/24, check number 200770 to 200793, and ACH number 432 for the amount of $675,298.77. Claims paid on 7/9/24, 7/10/24, and 7/11/24. Checks number 200794 to 200857. Or you're coming in to read all of that? I can let you do it. Gotta keep you on your toes. And check numbers 200794 to 200857. Number 433 to 434 for the amount of $580,763.11. And the third one is claims paid on 7/15, 7/17, and 7/19/2024. Checks number 200858 to 200966 and numbered 435 to 437 for the amount of $778,733.18. Claim paid on 7/24, 7/25, and 7/26. Checks number 200967 through 201097. Number 438 to 440 for the amount of $625,273.55. Claim paid on 8/2/24, checks number 201098 to 201210. Number 441 for the amount of $1,214,153.86. Claims paid on 8/6/24, 8/8/24, 8/9/24, checks number 201211 to 201310. Number 442 to 445 for the amount of $1,292,242.95 for the grand total of claims paid, $5,166,465.42. Commissioners, don't bring claims back. Comments? Do we have any public comments on this? Any online? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I move to approve consent agenda item A claims.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Bid award. City Shop Boiler Replacement Bid Award. Facility Director Troy Sampson and or Facility Manager Bridget Johnson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here tonight to ask you to award a bid for the new boilers at the city shop. The current 45-year-old boiler is well past its useful life. The current project consists of removing the original inefficient boiler and replacing it with 3 smaller 98% thermally efficient boilers. An RFP was posted August 3rd and 10th, with a pre-bid conference held on August 12th, in which 5 companies were present. 2 companies submitted bids that were opened on August 20th. Tri-County Mechanical and Electrical of Helena was the lowest responsive bidder, with a base bid of $247,082, a bid of $15,347 for alternate 1A, and a bid of $8.75 per gallon for alternate 1B. The total bid is within budget for this project. Staff supports and asks you to consider awarding the base bid and both alternates to replace the city shop boiler to Tri-County Mechanical and Electrical at an overall cost not to exceed $264,295.
Thank you. Manager Johnston. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, any online? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
thank you. I move to award City Shop Boiler Replacement Project CF 23009 to the lowest responsive bidder, Tri-County Mechanical and Electrical, in the amount of $247,082 plus alternates 1A and 1B.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Commissioners' proposals? Report of the city attorney?
Mayor, Commissioners, I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Report of the city manager?
Mayor, Commissioners, I have nothing to report this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. Communications from Helena Citizens Council, Representative Ryan Swacker. Do we have him online, Madam Clerk? Yes. You have the floor, Ryan.
Mayor and City Commissioners, thank you for having us on the agenda again this evening. First order that we wanted to bring up was welcoming our newest District 5 member, Katie Ryan, which you also graciously approved after nominated. And currently we have one more open seat in District 5 with 5 different applications. So we're hoping to have those reviewed, and District 5 would then be filled. We're also, HCC would like to thank the Commission for continuing to work on the Davis Street recommendations and promoting the passenger train coming through Helena. One final piece of information that we wanted to share is that the HCC open house at the Civic Center on September 25th is an opportunity for Helena citizens to come in and give us some feedback, ideas on the planning and growth of our lovely city of Helena. And that is all from the Helena Citizens Council, unless anybody from the Commission has any questions for me.
Commissioners, any questions? Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay, as stated earlier, this traffic plan proposal will be tabled. However, we still have to go through the formalities to table this item. So at this time, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I move to table the capital traffic plan proposal, which includes one-way streets and angled parking along 5th, 6th, and Lockheed Avenue.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any final discussion?
Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I think we are going to be moving to table this so that the state can continue to work on this plan. There was a lots of public comments that we received on this. I think just for the public's information, when they provide comments to general services, when the state continues to refine this plan, this is not a City of Helena plan. This is a state plan that is now coming to us. Gotten a lot of feedback on it. I will say that we've also gotten a couple letters from legislative leadership. And I would just encourage the executive branch and the legislative branch to work together to find a solution. I'm thrilled to hear that they are all concerned about this issue. And I think that this is a great jumping off point for the legislature to consider funding a parking garage for the Capitol complex that's been needed for a long time and found in numerous studies. So this is going back to the state, but I just want to emphasize it is in the Capitol's hands to solve this issue once and for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Where are we? It's been moved and seconded, right? Okay.
Mr. Mayor. If I may, there was one public comment submitted on this item written online. Would you like to read that into the record or have
Would you-
me?
Was it submitted just now?
It was submitted previous to you announcing the tabling.
Okay, would you please?
The public comment is only listed as Rebecca. I don't have a question, but I seem to be having technical difficulties. I wanted to comment on the one-way road change around the Capitol. I'm opposed to what the state leaders want to do. The Capitol is located in a residential area with limited access to Montana Avenue in a safe manner. The only way to cross, or enter Montana Avenue to go south on Montana Avenue is at 6th Street, as it is the only stop sign between Prospect Avenue and Broadway. If fender benders are the issue, angle parking isn't totally the answer. Anyone who is parked in the Husted parking lot, you know that to be true. Bad parking is bad all over the city. Why not just paint parking lines for parallel parking on both sides of the street to improve efficiency rather than pay the $25,000 and see what happens? 6th Street has already been cut off from public use as a through street. One-way streets puts an extra burden on the local residents who live here 24/7 over the minor benefit of those working 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Thank you. And that is all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So, it's been moved and seconded. Would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion to table carries 5-0.
Thank you. Consider a resolution distributing downtown urban renewal district tax increment financing fund to Harrella Brown's Rental LLC facade and sidewalk improvements at 104 East Broadway Street. Senior Planner Ray, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. So as was just mentioned, tonight you're being asked to consider a downtown tax increment financing request for the historic Masonic Temple building, which is located the northeast corner of Jackson and Broadway downtown. Before I talk about the application, I just want to preface the discussion by acknowledging the fact that this is the largest TIF request that we have seen for either the downtown or railroad districts. And that is a direct reflection, I think, of what Director Danielson has just presented on with regard to the accruals we're now realizing for the TIF district. So it's amazing that we now have this tranche of funds coming in that will allow us to even better affect change in these districts. And even if this application is funded tonight at the full funding request amount, there will be over $500,000 left to assist with projects in the downtown, in addition to tax revenues that will come in starting in November. So that is exciting to be able to say that tonight. The application this evening was submitted by Susan Bierke, who is the architect hired on behalf of Harrella Brown Rentals LLC. The application came in late May, and as was mentioned, is intended to address historic facade improvements and sidewalk improvements for the property located at 104 East Broadway. This structure dates all the way back to 1885, so it's probably one of our oldest in the downtown. It's quite the historic asset. And the owners are looking to invest in this project that is going to cost over 1.23 million just for these exterior improvements and the sidewalk improvements. This funding will allow them to deal with restoration of all of the many historic windows on the property, as well as reconstruct some of the entrances, and with the sidewalks, it will improve safety, but also help to daylight some of the commercial spaces, which if you've walked past it, you'll see in the basement level of the building that people work in. The application was brought to the Downtown Tax Increment Financing Advisory Board on July 11th this summer and was unanimously recommended for full funding approval. So the total request, like I said, is for it's for $614,208, and that's 50% of the overall project costs that are eligible. Following this, though, as I understand things from the applicant, they will be undertaking some pretty extensive interior renovations as well. So there's quite a bit being invested in this property in coming years. With all of that said, the motion before you this evening is to move to approve a resolution distributing Downtown Urban Renewal District Tax Increment Financing Funds to Harrella Brown Rentals LLC for facade and sidewalk improvements at 104 East Broadway Street. And if you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them. Susan Bierke, the architect for the applicant, I believe is also available online, and Dave Brown from Harrella Brown Rentals LLC is also in the audience this evening. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Planner Ray. Commissioners, comments, questions? Do you have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, do you have any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioners.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve a resolution distributing Downtown Urban Renewal District Tax Increment Financing Funds to Harrella Brown Rentals LLC for facade and sidewalk improvements at 104 East Broadway Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution for final annexation of Craftsman Village Phase 8 of the Crossroad and Mountain View Meadows. Director Brink, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Mayor, if you'll allow me, I'd like to present these two items together, both the final annexation and the final plat, for the interest of time. But know that it does require two separate motions, of course. So tonight before you is consideration of a resolution for final annexation, Craftsman Village Phase 8, as well as the final plat for Craftsman Village Phase 8. Mountain View Meadows LLC has requested final plat approval and final annexation for this phase. This phase will create approximately 51 lots on approximately 7.168 acres. And in accordance with the 2019 growth policy relative to annexation of property and preliminary plat approval, it is adjacent city limits related, and it's related infrastructure, and is within the urban standards boundary. Interim acceptance was received for this project on August 13th, 2024. All conditions of annexation and all conditions of preliminary plat approval have been given relative to resolution 20809, which was passed by the City Commission on April 10th of last year, as well as preliminary plat approval on April 10th, 2023. This property has been pre-zoned as required by City Code to RU, and that final passage was on May 22nd, 2023 in Ordinance 3308. Staff recommends for the annexation piece, we recommend that you move to approve a resolution for final annexation of Craftsman Village Phase 8. The crossroads at Mountain View Meadows, described as a portion of Tract A1, 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 A1A of the amended plat number 3386391, which is located within the south half of Section 26 and the north half of the southeast quarter of Section 35, Township 10, 10 North, Range 3 West, PMM, Lewis, Clark County, Montana, as well as other rights-of-way adjacent thereto into the city of Helena. And for the final plat recommendation, we also move to approve, or recommend that you move to approve a final plat for Craftsman Village Phase 8 major subdivision, creating 51 lots and street rights of way from approximately 7.168 acres, and to accept the dedication to the city of the property and public improvements so designated thereon. For property that is legally described as 7.168 acres, acre portion of tract A1, 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 A1A, as shown on the certificate of survey 3306 1065 in the records of the clerk and recorder of Lewis and Clark County, Montana. The applicant is present, Mr. Mayor, as well as the applicant's representative if you've got questions, and I'm available as well.
Thank you, Director Brink. Commissioners? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Okay, we will first address the item C. Charlie, for a vote. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. I move to approve a resolution for final annexation of Craftsman Village, Phase 8 of the Crossroads at Mountain View Meadows, described as portion tract A1, 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 A1A of the amended plat number 3386391, located within the south half of the section 26 and the north half in southeast quarter of section 35, Township 10 North, Range 3 West, PMM, Lewis and Clark County, Montana, as well as the rights of way adjacent thereto into the city of Helena, Montana.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for item D, Delta. Huh? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have it if
Okay.
Commissioner
you have it,
Logan.
Please.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the final plat for Craftsman Village Phase 8 of the Crossroads at Mountain View Meadows.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk. Oh, do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk, do we have any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Consider a resolution adopting an electronic public meeting policy for the city of Helena and designating the recording of meetings as the official record of the public meeting. Clerk of the Commission, Madam Claiborne, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. For the record, I want all of you to know that the police chief, Chief Petty, said that he was anxiously anticipating the discussion of this item tonight.
You can come up now, Chief.
As you well know, we've talked about this several times now at admin meetings. I would just like to highlight a couple of items that have changed in the packet materials. I won't go through the presentation you've already sat through several times, but just for the public certification, one of the main things that we're hoping to accomplish with the resolution this evening is to make sure that the recordings that we are making of the meetings, the public meetings, become the official record of the public meetings so that we can use the action minutes, the timestamp minutes that you've been seeing on the city's website and be in compliance with all state law. So as discussed at the last admin meeting, a couple of things to highlight. These are the resources that we used, some of the resources, I guess I should say, in order to develop the policy that's in your packet this evening, the lengthy resolution. We have spoken in the clerk's office with the MSU Local Government Center, and they have reviewed it. We've also looked at multiple Robert's Rules papers on electronic meetings, including a white paper that was used by them or I'm sorry, proposed by them. At the commission admin meeting on the 7th, there was discussion amongst 4 of you to strike section 9 and section 13. No decisions were obviously made at that meeting, but there was a good, I thought, healthy discussion on it. As you see that the section 9 is pertaining to a minimum number of meetings that need to be attended in person. And this is a snapshot of that portion of the resolution and what it states currently. Section 13 is pertaining to in-person attendance requirements for meetings associated with, simply staff. We came up with items that we thought were of certain import and that we felt that the commission may want to consider, as some other communities do, a requirement for in-person attendance when you're looking at things like final budget adoption, personnel matters, like a reduction in personnel, quasi-judicial, that type of thing. And that's, here's a snapshot of that section as well. So one slide I did add this time, and it's just simply to, I think, illustrate more than anything. There was that discussion about the 50% requirement for the meetings attendance in person. And I was just curious what it would look like if we went back over the last several years and looked at how many meetings folks on the commission attended online. And as you can see here, even in 2022, when we were looking at COVID protocols, meaning that essentially all the admin meetings were online, meaning all of us were online for those meetings. And then the regular commission meetings were in chambers. But looking back through notes from that era, it was optional for quite some time. So not until after April, May of that year did we actually shift all of the meetings primarily into in-person meetings. You'll see that no one actually reached that 50% threshold. And since then, it has dramatically dropped off. So other than that, I don't have any additional new information unless you all have questions for me this evening. I'd be happy to field those at this time and take any comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Comments from the commission? Do you have any public comments on? Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having reviewed this and had the discussion a couple of times, the question I keep coming back to is what is the problem we're trying to solve? And I do think that the last slide indicates that we don't currently have a problem. So I'm not sure why, and I'm speaking specifically about sections 9 and 13, why we think we need to put in a sort of, I don't mean to be flip about it, but a somewhat arbitrary minimum requirement. I do have some questions about enforcement of this. It says annual meetings, but does that include special meetings? What if meetings are canceled? What if somebody has to leave early? I think I'm a bit concerned about putting something in here with no clear means of enforcement. And if we're not going to enforce it, again, I sort of am asked, why are we doing this? If we are going to do it, are we going to be publicly tracking it? Will we be posting this information? Are we going to have a rolling dashboard at the start of every meeting? I think it raises more questions for me than it provides answers. At the last meeting, I know some other commissioners talked about how they'd done research and looked at other policies. And so I started to do that. And then I decided instead of looking at policies, I would actually talk to people. So I reached out to a couple of commissioners and council people from around the state. And I think what I heard was that it feels, everyone asked me why 50%, what happens at 51%? And I think there were questions similar to the ones I had, but I was particularly impacted by the comments of a commissioner who submitted her public comment to us, who was a mother of a young child. And she said, I was able to fully participate in all of our meetings because of the online option. And looking at the chart you had up previously, it's pretty clear I am Commissioner D because during 2022, I had a young child and there were no vaccinations for children that young. So while it was optional to come into chambers, I was not comfortable putting my child at risk to come in for a meeting. So I think it is for me, we're looking to other people's policies and procedures. What I would rather do is look to the future and set a different standard and be forward-looking, and realize that technology has opened a door and expanded people's ability to participate. And I don't know why we would close that door. I don't see a need there. And I think those that would be impacted are those who have young children, people who might have unreliable transportation, people who have jobs that require them to be out of town sometimes. And given that we're part-time, I think it's a big ask for, again, a problem that I am unclear what it is that we're trying to solve. I would be comfortable with changing the number. I would be most comfortable with removing the number. I'm comfortable with changing the language to noting that the preferred method is in person. And I think with regard to section 13, those are big decisions, and I would hate to not be able to vote on something important because my job required me to be out of town when I am quite capable of participating just online. So again, I would love to see 9 and 13 removed. If that is not possible, I would really like to consider reducing the number or indicating that the preferred method of participation is in person and allowing people to make the choices they have to make to be able to serve their communities and their families and whatever other obligations they have. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. We started online because of COVID. Before COVID happened, we were mandated to be here. And we all had small kids before COVID. We were still supposed to be here. While contemplating the city's policy regarding electronic public meeting, I have struggled with balancing the demands on busy professional schedules for what is essentially a part-time gig, and the right of those we represent to see that their representatives are present and accounted for. Organizationally, the commission position is a part-time job. However, as anyone who has sat in the seat will tell you, it is anything but. Hours of meeting throughout the year can be difficult to juggle with a full-time work or school. Yet countless before us have managed to do just this before online meeting became the norm. I fully recognize the value that virtual meetings provide to give the public extended accessibility to local government's business, but I stress caution in making the focus of the policy an accommodation to the elected officials. The choice to run for a representative government is not one that should be taken lightly. And with it comes a basic expectations by those you are asking to represent. Civil service is both a privilege and a sacrifice. No one should be discouraged from running for office, but it should also come with the understanding of the dedication and demands that represent the constituents we place on all aspects of our lives. A fact that any one of my fellow commissioners know all too well. Our constituents expect us to be here. However, the option of the online meeting is there. And when you look at how many meetings we all miss, it still does not come close to what is being suggested. Being a commissioner is a job that we didn't just apply for. We asked for the community to entrust us to represent them. The scheduling demands of the job were known ahead of time, and the public meetings are announced annually. Those who seek the office should appreciate the purpose of democratic government is about the public's right to a fair representation of all community members, and that so doing means we bend to meet the needs of the greater community, not the other way around. That's the sacrifice. I would expect the members of the public who don't have a computer or are uncomfortable with online meeting should be able to sit in the commission chambers and speak directly to their representatives at least half of the time. Because we ask for the privilege to represent them. So I believe we should show up. I want the city to continue to adopt the modern way of doing business, but not at the cost of the community feeling as though they are not receiving the type of representation they deserve. I support the resolution as it stands, but will consider amending the language to offer less specific in section 9 to allow for more flexibility on the part of the chairperson for those who need to participate more frequently online due to extenuating circumstances. That's where I stand. Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief here, because I think I spoke a bit about this at the several admin meetings where this came up, but I think I am supportive of the resolution. I think what we're trying to do here, and I think everyone is supportive of most of the resolution. It's just these two sections that are causing us some difficulty. And, but I think what we're doing here is setting of expectations relative to an elected representative and their in-person versus online participation. So, as I stated previously, one of the first ways I started thinking about this was going to extremes. And I asked the question, would we be comfortable with somebody participate as an elected representative, participating 100% online? And I think the majority of us at the time that answered that question were not. I think Commissioner Reed had said she would be comfortable with that, and that's a perfectly valid response to that question. But I think most of us wanted to try to draw a line somewhere. And so I think the other extreme, obviously, none of us, it didn't sound like we're comfortable with, that is in person all the time, which happens in one community in Montana. It's not mandated. They just don't really have the technology to do it. So as I stated before, I surveyed communities around Montana, much as our city clerk did. And by the way, thank you for all the work on this. I know it hasn't been easy, but what I found was 3 communities, Bozeman, Billings, Missoula, all have resolutions with what I would consider to be more stringent requirements for elected officials and relative to in-person meetings. Butte Silver Bow was the one that had an all in-person, just mainly because they didn't have the technology. Kalispell had technology for remote participation by elected officials, but they had no policy, but the clerk there said it online participation was frowned upon, was the language used. And then Great Falls has a statement in their code of conduct, which pretty much mirrored what Commissioner Reed mentioned. She said the commission's preference is that members attend in person and electronic participation be infrequent. And as I considered that, that's all the big, well, us included, is all the big 7 in Montana. And I almost think that that bent exists, or that tendency exists because of our Constitution, which in the Constitution has declaration of rights relative to essentially open meetings, but these are afforded to our citizenry of citizen participation in the operation of the agencies prior to any final decision, and that they shall not be deprived of the right to examine or to observe the deliberations of all public bodies or agencies of state government and its subdivisions. And I think those, while they don't explicitly say it, we're talking about the responsibility of the elected representative to be present and sometimes face the music, which is not always an easy thing. So, I think it's clearly valued within the state of Montana by municipalities and governments. And then I'd like to end on actually the effectiveness of the medium, which I am troubled by. I mean, it's good, it's okay, it's good, but there's nothing like in-person deliberation where, you know, you can look commissioners in the eye, so much of communication is nonverbal, the body language and so forth. But I governed for, what did we decide? A little over 2 years online. Commissioner Dean and I, for sure. And I didn't feel like it was effective, and as effective as in person. And I think we also, you know, during COVID, we also experienced what our kids went through with online learning. And we know that there's nothing that can replace the teacher pupil, that in-person relationship that exists. And so relative to the effectiveness of the medium, it's okay, but I don't think I think it's, well, to go back to what we've said, I think in-person should be the rule and online participation should be the exception. And so that's where I'm at, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just to add one last statement to the media, how will you contact us if we were online? I mean, like after meetings, some of you come to us and say, "Hey, can I ask you a question about this and that?" But that wouldn't be possible if if we were doing it online. You won't be able to contact us immediately to find out whether we can do that online, would you? No, that's correct. So that's another thing. But anyway, enough of my grandstanding. So any other comments? Do we have any public comments on this matter?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Ben Kuiper. I'm the Chair of the Helena Citizens Council. I just wanted to follow up on my comments from the last admin meeting. I was since able to meet with the clerk and we ironed out most of the details. So regardless of what you choose to do tonight, we'll be able to operate as is, or if you decide to remove Section 9, that would work for us as well. But personally, and this isn't the opinion of the entire HCC, they haven't considered this question, but personally, as chair, I think on the HCC side of things, I don't think Section 9 is necessary. So I would recommend that in terms of at least considering the HCC's role in this, that you remove it, because an HCC representative, in my opinion, isn't hampered in their role by participating over 50% online. And I've seen that since being involved during and after COVID. So it'd be my opinion that Section 9 is unnecessary, but that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other public comments on this matter? Any online, madam?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one hand raised. Mary Harlow.
Would you please put him through? You have the floor, Mary.
Mayor Collins, members of the commission, I speak to you today as a resident of the city of Helena. I'm very concerned about electronic meetings. It seems to be a way that we're going with our government, removing the people that are governing us from the people. I hardly agree with what you had to say, Mayor Collins, about the role of elected officials. I think it's very important for them to be there and be present at meetings. As a citizen, as a voter, I like to be able to see my elected representatives. I like to see their body language. I want to hear in person what they have to say. I think if you're going to write this into resolution, that you have to be very clear under what circumstances a commissioner would be allowed to miss a meeting and to come in on a Zoom meeting. I don't think that it's something that should be loosely attended to. I looked at what the state legislature has for rules and regulations on Zoom meetings, and basically what they say is that if you want a representative needs to have a Zoom meeting, then they must contact the chair, and the chair must give them that permission. And it wasn't taken lightly, that it has to be some good reason for this. And so I do understand that that does happen. Life comes in on all of us, and we have to excuse ourselves from things we want to do. But I think it's very, very important to make sure that the citizen has the right to see their representatives and to hear in person what they are voting for and why they are voting for it. So I heartily recommend that we be very careful with this resolution and be sure to cover all the T's, cross all the T's and all the I's, and make sure that it's not loose, that people are required to have a good reason for not attending a meeting in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any others? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no other public comment online.
Okay. What I've heard today is, including from myself, is to allow some flexibility with Section 9. I don't know where the rest of the commissioners are with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Really briefly, I think so as it reads, and I guess this might be helpful for the public too, who this might be the first time they're tuning in on this issue, even though we've discussed it at a number of meetings. As we've noted, the two sections in question, I think most particularly is Section 9. And Section 9 reads, a member may not attend more than 50% of an entity's annual public meetings by electronic means unless any absences exceeding 50% are due to any of the following: military service, illness or other medical condition, or in care of a loved one with illnesses or a medical condition, or death of a relative, or an emergency involving actual or threatened injury to persons or property, or unforeseen employment obligations, or any other matter of significance as determined by the presiding officer, or inability to attain care for a minor child, or with 2/3 vote of the entity. I think, in my opinion, 50% is, I cannot think of many situations in which someone would need to be gone for more than 25 meetings that didn't fall under one of those exceptions. And that is what Section 9 does, is if you do not fall under one of those exceptions, you can't miss more than 25 of our 50 meetings a year. I would say that's fairly.
You mean miss in person?
Miss in person. Yes, correct. You cannot be on Zoom. Miss in person. You cannot be on Zoom for 25 of our 50 meetings, any more than that. I will say, I think that, we move in terms of Section 13. We frequently move items to different dates because someone may or may not be here, or may not be on Zoom, technical issues, the rest. A good example is the budget was moved up because the city manager was going to be gone and I was going to be gone on September 9th. And so I think, in the last 4.5 years, I can't recall one circumstance in which we didn't move an item when a commissioner requested it. And I think that we do get a lot better deliberation when we are all, especially on major issues, when we are in person and able to talk about some of these issues together. And so in my opinion, I think that Section 9 is more than flexible. And I think it sets a pretty lenient expectation for the commission. As I mentioned in previous meetings, I think as public servants, we truly have an obligation to be available and accessible to the public while also complying with the Montana Constitution, to be publicly and thoughtfully deliberate when we discuss the issues. And so I think, as it stands, I think this resolution is more than flexible in meeting all of the exceptions that might arise.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that sentiment. Again, I am concerned with the wording of section 9 that right now, if a commissioner is a new mother, are we calling that a medical condition? Are we calling it inability to care for a minor child? And it might take more than 25 meetings with a newborn, unless we're comfortable with a mother bringing an infant to meetings. And I think I'm slightly concerned about that piece. And I appreciate other people have young children and have been through it, but I'm a little concerned about that one. And I'm a little concerned about people who may not have reliable transportation. We don't have public transportation here, so I feel like there may be some circumstances that are not covered by these exceptions, and I understand that it is, we could put it under other matters of significance as determined by the presiding officer, but that does put a person in a position of wondering if it's going to be okay if they're going to be home with their newborn. And I'm not sure I'd like to put that. So either I would recommend changing the language or adding something in or reducing it to 25%. But I had an interesting conversation with somebody who was at our last administrative meeting regarding ADA issues. And he also raised to me that there are some people who may not want to disclose their disability. That may not be something they're comfortable sharing. And so while we may have an ADA exception for someone, there may be people who could qualify but may not feel comfortable sharing it. So I think the very prescriptive nature of Section 9 does leave some areas of vulnerability to people who may be prepared to serve and ready to make the commitment, but have obstacles to physically being in this room for, let's call it 51% of the time. So my recommendation, I would like to add something in about the preferred method of attendance is in person. I would like to change it to 25%, or I would like to change it somehow, add something in about other reasons of import to someone, because I think there are some people who will get lost in these exceptions. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, I'm open to adding or other items of significance or import, but I mean, whatever the phrasing is, I think that's fine. I think that,
Technically, it's already in there.
I don't disagree, but if I don't disagree at all. And I think that, there has not been one circumstance in the last 4.5 years in which, we have not accommodated a member of the commission. But
And this is a job, all right? And if we must accommodate people with disabilities and they don't want to tell us that, I don't need to know the intricacies of your disability. I just need to know you have a disability and you need accommodation. Everywhere else, when you need accommodation, you have to express that, and we will make those accommodations as we go along. That's how it's worked in every other job situation. I don't see why we're being all different here, because the public expects us to be here. So, enough. Are you done? I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just quickly say I appreciate Commissioner Reed's comments. I think there's enough flexibility built into the language, and Commissioner Dean, I appreciate you reading those for the public. So I'm comfortable making a recommendation or a motion.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I would recommend the adoption of the resolution creating an electronic meetings policy for the city of Helena and designating the recording of the meeting as the official record of the public meetings.
second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Did we do public comments? We've been talking so much. Did we entertain?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We
Oh, yes, we have Ms. Holloway. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
No.
Commissioner Dean,
aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-1.
Public hearings, consider a resolution specifying the assessment options for the Street Maintenance and Improvement District Number 1 for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all properties within the district. Director Danielson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. With your permission, I'll just give a brief overview of items A through K. Each of these city assessments were brought before the commission. I gave a presentation in an administrative meeting as to how they're calculated and the purpose of each of the assessments. Of the various assessments before you tonight, the only assessment that is being recommended to increase is the assessment for residential solid waste improvement, an increase of $24 per year per account. The other one being the special street lighting district assessments are calculated each year and vary amongst the various districts. There are 53 lighting districts within the city. We calculate the cash balance at the end of the fiscal year. We review the electric costs for those districts and the maintenance, and then we calculated an assessment for each of the districts that are separate and listed on the resolution as to what those rates are. The other assessments include the sidewalks and those that are voluntary participation in our various loan programs. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have for any of these assessments, but this is just the final resolution to adopt them in a public hearing.
Thank you, Director. Comments or questions from the commission? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, just briefly, we talked about this last meeting, but I think there's a handful of people who are listening in today. Can you talk about what has precipitated the increase in solid waste?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner Dean. So last year we raised the rates for the solid waste in order to pay for debt service for equipment that's needed in the solid waste fund. There are new garbage trucks, and then they're also refurbishing a few other trucks, primarily because of inflationary pressures with providing staff competitive wages and benefits, in addition to, taking on the new debt service, and in addition to subsidizing the curbside recycling program, has that particular subsidy has depleted a lot of the cash flow in that fund. And so the preference is not to take debt service out for equipment and to be able to replenish that cash flow so that in the future we can pay for replacement equipment out of cash reserves instead of taking out new debt service.
Do you have any other comments on this from the commission? Do you have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, do we have any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I will start with the street maintenance. I will move to approve a resolution specifying the assessment option for the street maintenance and improvement district number 1 for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all properties within the district.
Come on, come in.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution specifying the assessment option for the open space maintenance district number 1 for fiscal year 25, levying an assessment on all properties within the district. Commissioners? After you.
Mr. Mayor, I will move to approve a resolution.
Do you have any comments?
Oh, no.
Any comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Do we have any online, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will move to approve a resolution specifying the assessment option for the open space maintenance district number 1 for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all properties within the district.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution specifying the assessment option for the special urban forestry Management District for fiscal year 2025, and levying assessment on all properties within the district. Comments from the commission? Do you have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, any online?
I have no, Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment on
I'll
that.
entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. I move to approve a resolution specifying the assessment option for the Special Urban Forest Management District for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all properties within the district.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
Right, we do have.
Mr. Mayor, I do actually have a hand raised online for this.
Oh, okay.
Ryan Schwackert.
Ryan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Just reading through that resolution, could you describe just briefly what the Special Urban Forest Management District is and what those boundaries are?
Go ahead, Shem.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. The Special Urban Forestry Management District is a district that encompasses all of the city limits as of now. This district was recreated last year to encompass and to incorporate all of the city limits within the district. It's used to manage the urban forestry within the city limits, both in public rights of way and parks, to manage the forestry and trees and the health and planting of the trees within the city.
Okay. Thank you. It was moved and seconded. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution specifying the assessment of options for the landfill monitoring and maintenance district for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all properties within the district. Commissioners, comments, questions? Do we have any public comments on this? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Move to approve a resolution specifying the assessment option for the landfill monitoring and maintenance district for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all properties within the district.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution specifying the assessment option for the collection and disposal of residential garbage and refuse for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all properties receiving residential solid waste collection. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I would move to approve a resolution specifying the assessment option for the collection and disposal of residential garbage and refuse for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all properties receiving residential solid waste collection.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution specifying the assessment option for the storm water utility service area for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on properties within the service. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Do you have any public comments on this topic? Do you have any online, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will move to approve a resolution specifying the assessment option for the stormwater utility service area for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all properties within the service.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution levying an assessment on properties to recover the cost of removal of snow and ice from sidewalks on the adjacent public rights of way for tax year 2024. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Any online, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I move to consider a resolution levying an assessment on properties to recover the cost of removal of snow and ice from sidewalks on the adjacent public rights of way for tax year 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I think we just might need to amend the motion for tax year 2025.
No?
Not 2025. Oh, from previously.
Mayor and Commission, it's tax year 2024 for fiscal year 2025.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution levying on an assessment on properties to recover the amortized loan issue under the Residential Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Loan Program for tax year 2025. Any comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will move to approve a resolution levying an assessment on properties to recover the amortized loans issued under the Residential Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Loan Program for the tax year 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Do we have any public comments on this? Madam Clerk,
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution levying an assessment on properties to recover the cost reimbursement for water and wastewater infrastructure installed by the city for tax year 2024. Comments or questions from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
thank you. I move to approve a resolution levying an assessment on properties to recover the costs of reimbursement for water and wastewater infrastructure installed by the city for tax year 2024.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution specifying the assessment option for the special street lighting districts for fiscal year 2025 and levying assessment on all properties within the district. Comments or questions from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Do we have any online, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I move to approve a resolution specifying the assessment option, of the special street lighting districts for fiscal year 2025 and levying an assessment on all property within the districts.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution levying assessment for improvements of sidewalks, curbs, and gutters and alleys approaches in the city of Helena, Montana for tax year 2024. Commissioners. Do you have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I move to approve a resolution levying assessments for improvement of sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and alley approaches in the city of Helena, Montana for tax year 2024.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution providing for the annual tax levy in mills for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. Commissioners. Okay, Director.
Mayor and Commission, just as noted earlier in my presentation, that city staff is recommending that the commission approve the tax levy as presented, levying 152.37 mils for tax year 2024.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Danielson, so given that we are still researching and we'll be communicating with DOR about what happened with the, with our values in general, we're on a timeline to adopt this and our budget. If we adopt this today and we come back and we find that there were, X number of hundreds of properties that were not new properties that were not assessed or evaluations that were not correct. Is that an amendment, or do we know what happens then?
Mayor Collins and Commissioner Dean, without researching that, I can't give a definitive answer. However, I will definitely work with the county tax office. I know that when they had an adjustment to their taxes, they sent out revised tax bills. So should that be the case, we would work with the county to make any revisions to property tax bills.
Okay, great, thanks. And I just want to emphasize, as you explained in your presentation at the beginning, we are under a Montana state code imposed deadline, which is why we have to adopt, even though we believe that there could be further adjustments that are more accurate.
Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Do we have any online, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I move to approve a resolution providing for the annual tax levy and mills for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan, Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution adopting final budgets authorities, and appropriation for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, ending June 30th, 2025, and setting the salary of municipal court judge. Do you want to add anything to that, Director Danielson?
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Tonight, we have before you the adoption of the final budget. Back in June, the Commission adopted the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2025. Since the adoption of the preliminary budget to this final budget, there have been total appropriation changes increasing the fiscal 25 budget by $419,526. Those are outlined in the packet, but there was an increase to the general fund by $182,000, an increase to the streets fund by $200,000, the urban forestry fund by $130,000, gas tax fund by $75,000. The lighting district calculations that I did after the preliminary budget actually resulted in fund appropriations decreasing by $416,826. The general capital fund increasing by $3,300. An adjustment to the downtown TIF fund for their distributions by $50,000. The water fund increased $65,000. The wastewater fund increased $65,000. The recycling fund increased $66,318, and the city county building fund decreased by $880. And those adjustments are outlined in your packet of what each of those adjustments were. I will indicate for the general fund, when I reviewed the wages again as they came in at the fiscal year end, and saw that the firefighters did not have the vacancy savings that they had used in the past. They're not having any trouble retaining and recruiting firefighters. And so they did not use the vacancy adjustment that I had originally budgeted for them. I had also budgeted for a vacancy adjustment them in fiscal 25 and felt it prudent to take that vacancy adjustment out, which resulted in a increase in appropriations by $110,000 in the general fund. They're also utilizing their 457 match from the city at a higher rate. So I adjusted their usage in that by $4,400. And then there were a few other adjustments to the general fund, increasing the total general fund appropriations, excuse me, by 182,000. With that, I'm open to questions.
Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
sorry to make you keep talking.
No, that's
I will be
okay.
brief.
I'm gonna get my cough drop right now.
Okay, just a quick question on the changes. I noted an increase in gas tax fund of $75,000 for dust abatement. Is that the dust abatement on Davis Street that already occurred, or is that planned future dust abatement? I think that is of interest to the public, so if we could get a little more on that, yeah, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mayor, Commissioner Reed, we are designing a broader program than just Davis Street, and we will report back to the commission.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and that's great to see. And then just a quick other question. I was not able to find it in the packet, but there had been a discussion some time ago about the possibility of some funding for recommendations made by the newly formed parking board. And I know that there were some challenges in identifying possible funding. Do we have any funding in this budget for a recommendation that may be made by the parking board? Thank you.
Mayor, Commissioner, I don't believe we have any funding immediately available, but if a proposal comes forward, I think we'll bring it in front of the commission with a recommendation, if you approve it, on how to finance an improvement.
Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, just one brief comment. First, I want to thank Director Danielson. This is every year our budget is, start in like December and then we go all the way until September and then start all over. And so this is one of those things that is a constant process but takes a ton of staff legwork from all the departments. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't note that our finance department is doing this in the midst of implementing a multi-million-dollar ERP, enterprise resource planning software that is modernizing the way our entire city operates as an organization and making data much more accessible to the public as a whole. I do just want to really briefly note in previous budget discussions, we've talked a lot about a cost of living adjustment for our staff. As a commission and in this budget, we agreed to a 3.5% cost of living adjustment. The state is providing a 4% increase to for state employees. I was really hoping that we could get to 4% so that we could remain competitive with the state. I think that we've made a lot of really excellent progress in getting our staff closer to market. As we've heard in previous staff meetings, we're not quite there yet, but we have gained significant ground in just, 2 years after losing ground for like 7 years. I also just want to note that, I mentioned this at the beginning. I was hoping to bring an amendment that would bump us up from 3.5% to 4% cost of living adjustment after our values came in from the Department of Revenue. I don't necessarily think it would be prudent right now to make that amendment because it would cost about $110,000 and would have to come from our cash reserves. Given that we try to not use cash reserves for ongoing costs and instead for one-time only costs for lots of good policy reasons, I'm going to hold off on that amendment today. I really will look forward to the conversation when we actually have estimates or revised values from the Department of Revenue that fully realize the development that our departments are experiencing on a daily basis, that you can drive around town and see on a daily basis that don't necessarily are not necessarily reflected in those amounts that we receive from the Department of Revenue as of now. But as we mentioned, we're on a time crunch we're obligated by state law to adopt this budget. And so we can always return to this. I really had hoped to make that amendment. But I just don't think it's prudent at this time since we would have to rely on cash reserves. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I think that's it. I hope the public does get a chance to look at this budget because there are a lot of really great infrastructure investments that we're making in this budget. And so like you'll see a lot of improvements in terms of streets and water and wastewater improvement that is on a daily basis thing, but super important to the way the city operates.
You've been seeing things all day. Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comments online.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
would move to approve a resolution adopting final budgets, budget authorities, and appropriations for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024, and ending June 30th, 2025, and setting the salary for municipal court judge.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. At this time, is there anyone from the public wishes to address the commission? Madam Clerk, do we have any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Commissioners, any final comments? Okay, without further ado, this meeting is adjourned.